Hi, my name is ALYA IZZATI and I am from class DC6A. So, for today, me and my group will be presenting about our topic, which is environment. I'll start the presentation with the definition of environmental issue. Environmental issues are the negative consequences of human action on the biophysical ecosystem. Since 1916, environmentalists, a social and environmental movement, have been advocating their campaign, their protests, and spread awareness about this issue. There are a lot of issues that are being categorized under the environmental issues, and some of these issues are UN main concern, and UN have come to decision that these issues are the issues that they must be resolved before 2030. So the first main issue is global climate change. Global climate change is a change in the average condition such as the temperature and the rainfall in a certain area over a long period of time. The scientists have came up with a research that they confirm that as the year goes by, the temperature will keep on increasing due to the greenhouse activities by the human. Moving on to the next environmental issue, which is marine or sea pollution. There are actually two types of marine and sea pollution, which is the chemicals and trash. So most of the sea are being polluted by these two pollution. Chemicals usually came from fertilizer or oil this can endanger the wildlife in the sea, and it can also be harmful to human. For the trash, most of the time debris of trash that can be found in the sea are like plastic, bottle cap, or even a tissue. So this debris are endangering the wildlife because most of the time the fish or the animal in the sea will think that this is a food, so it will consume it, which is going to endanger their life. For the last environmental issues that are being put as a concern in UN is food waste. Okay, so food waste can be categorized into two, which is food loss and food waste. So for food loss is edible food that goes uneaten. Basically, it's like vegetables on the field or the farm, or food that goes spoiled while shipping. Basically, food loss is food that is not being able to uneat before they even get into restaurant or supermarket. That is for food loss. While food waste is food that are intentionally being thrown. Example like leftover at the restaurant or food scraps food scraps that are from preparing the meal. Basically, it's food that are being thrown intentionally. So that is all from me. I'll be passing the next presentation to Hamza. Thank you.
Gentlemen, what are the impacts of severe environmental issues that are happening in our world today? So there are three impacts, focusing on three environmental issues. First is climate change, sea pollution, and also food waste. So for the first one, which is climate change, how does climate change affect international relations? So from climate change, we would see extreme meteorological phenomena such as typhoons, tsunamis, and flash floods. So due to these extreme meteorological phenomena, will cause them a huge loss in money. So in today's climatic instability, developing countries are vulnerable to severe weather events which cause significant economic harm. So this is how it affects the international relations. Over the last decade, developing countries have borne $35 billion in natural disaster losses on annual basis. That's a lot of money to lose just due to climate change. For examples, I give you two examples. The first one is Asia. So extreme events have increases in the temperature in Asia, including floods, droughts, forest fires, and tropical cyclones, which leads to increase in energy demand, decrease the tourism in the country, and also influence transportation in some regions of Asia. So it's all about the economy. When climate change happens, it affects the economy, thus affecting international relations. Next is small island states. So the projected sea level rise of 5 mm per year for the next 100 years will cause enhanced coastal erosion, loss of land and property, dislocation of people, increased risk from storm surges, reduced resilience of coastal ecosystem, saltwater intrusion, and freshwater resources, which in a way, when losing land and property and resources, will make the cost of living in that particular country also increase. The next environmental issue that we have to put our eyes on is sea pollution. And the biggest factor that contributes to sea pollution is oil spills. So why are oil spills considered dangerous? Oil spills can cause serious damage to fisheries and mariculture resources, and it is also a matter of international security for the area affected. Why? Because it also affects human health. Let's take one example of an oil spill, which is the Mauritius oil spill that happened last year in 2020. So on July 25th, 2020, the oil tanker MV Wakashu ran aground on a coral reef of the southeast coast of Mauritius, carrying nearly 4,000 metric tons of oil. So according to media reports, more than 1,000 metric tons of oil spilled into the Indian Ocean from the crack ship, polluting nearby coral reefs as well as beaches and lagoons. So when saying of international security matter, it affects everything that's in the area of the Mauritius area. So Mauritius is also considered a biodiversity hotspot. So the situation is very, very serious. But there's also the human influence in besides the environmental area, which goes beyond the environmental implications. Oil spills have significant social and also health consequences. The exposure of oil spills can cause liver damage, skin and lung disorders, increase in cancer risk, reproductive damage, and post-traumatic stress disorder in those who are exposed, which is why it is affected very, very much in international relations. Now let's enter the last and final impact on serious environmental issues, which is food waste. So how does food waste actually affect international relations? Again, it is also a matter of international security. So when food waste that ends up in landfills, they produce a large amount of methane, which is a more powerful greenhouse gas than even carbon dioxide. If you look at land usage, around 1.4 billion hectares of land, which is roughly 1/3 of the world's total agricultural land area, is used to grow food that is wasted. Which is why the impact is that food waste actually gives health problems to people. Health problems to people who are in the area. In the United States, 30% of all the food worth $48.3 billion is thrown away each year. It is estimated about half of the water used to produce this food also goes to waste, since agriculture is the largest human use of water. So due to the very big amount of food waste that is done in America, this indirectly also affects and gives them health problems towards people in America, which is why it is a very serious problem towards international relations.
Hi, so I'm going to continue this presentation with the role of United Nations to solve a global environmental issue. So first of all, what is United Nations or UN? United Nations or UN is actually an international organization that is founded in 1945 by 51 countries, which the main concern is to maintain international peace and security, and also at the same time developing friendly relations among nations. So there are a few divisions of United Nations that caters different types of global issue, and for the environmental issue, it is under United Nations Environment Programme or UNEP. And there are few roles of United Nations to solve this global environmental issue. The first one is United Nations is to assess the environmental conditions and trends at the global, regional, and national levels. This focus more on climate change. And the United Nations has set up one panel, which is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change or IPCC. And IPCC was set up by the World Meteorological Organization or WMO and United Nations Environment.
This is to provide an objective source of scientific information. In 2013, IPCC has provided more clarity about the role of human activities in climate change when it released its fifth assessment report, and it is categorical in its conclusion, which is climate change is real and human activities are the main cause. The second point is United Nations is responsible to strengthen the ability of countries to integrate climate change responses by providing leadership in adaptation, technology and finance. This is under the Department of Climate Change of United Nations Environment Programme, and this focus on facilitating the transition to low carbon society, improving the understanding of climate science, and facilitating the development of renewable energy. And at the same time, this is to raise public awareness about climate change. Other than climate change, United Nations also caters the problem of sea pollution, and this can be seen when United Nations facilitates the management and restoration of ecosystems. This is under the ecosystem management. So for example, Global Program of Action or GPA is the program that is held by United Nations for protection of the marine environment from land-based activities. And also the example that we can see here is from the oil spilled issue, where the ship has the oil spilled on the sea and it disrupt the marine life. And that is all for role of United Nations to solve global environmental issue. Thank you.
Oh, hi guys. To continue the presentation regarding the environment topic, I'm going to explain about the NGOs and the IGOs that are related to the environmental issues and what are their roles to cater these problems. So, first thing first, we have to know what is NGO and what is IGO. NGO is non-profit organization, while IGO is intergovernmental organization. There are many NGOs and IGOs across the globe, and they have different objectives and different purposes. Moving on, I'm going to explain the NGOs that are related to environmental issues. The first NGO is the World Wildlife Fund, which is the WWF. WWF works to help local communities conserve the natural resources they depend upon, transform markets and policies towards sustainability, and protect and restore species and their habitats. Their efforts ensure that the value of nature is reflected in decision making from a local to a global scale. This means this NGO is really related to the international relation in terms of solving environmental issue. WWF connects cutting-edge conservation science with the collective power of their partners in the field, because there are more than 1 million supporters just in the United States and currently 5 million globally, as well as partnerships with communities, companies, and governments from all over the world. So the second NGO is Earth Justice. What is Earth Justice? Earth Justice is the premier non-profit public interest environmental law organization. They wield the power of law and the strength of partnership to protect people's health, to preserve magnificent places and wildlife, to advance clean energy, and most importantly, to combat climate change, which is related to the environmental issue that are affecting the international relation. Currently, they have more than 150 full-time lawyers ranked among the nation's foremost legal strategists for the environment. And this includes legal and research analysts, policy experts, staff scientists, and more. Their team basically leverages unparalleled legal expertise from their nation's highest court to their local public utility commissions. And their work is supported and guided by their Board of Trustees and Earth Justice Council. This shows that this NGO is really useful for solving the environmental issues regarding international relations. Moving on to the IGO. The first IGO that is related to the environment issues is the European Union, which is the EU. The EU policy protects the environment and seeks to minimize risks to climate, human health, and biodiversity. The European Green Deal aims to make Europe the world's first climate-neutral continent, and this needs cooperation from many countries, and it means it is related to the international relation, and in part by developing cleaner sources of energy and green technologies. The EU is also recognized as a leading proponent of international action on environment and is committed to promoting sustainable development worldwide. Sustainable development is one of the overarching objective of the EU as set out in its treaties. So, as an active participant in the elaboration and implementation of multilateral environmental agreements and other environmental negotiation and processes, notably in the United Nations framework, basically the EU's constructive position has on several occasions proved crucial to ensuring progress. So, moving on to the second IGO that is related to the environmental issues, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is the IPCC. It was created to provide policymakers with regular scientific assessments on climate change, its implications, and potential future risks, as well as to put forward adaptation and mitigations options. The IPCC also determines the state of knowledge on climate change. It identifies where there is agreement in the scientific community on topics related to climate change and environmental issues, and where further research is needed. These reports are drafted and reviewed in several stages, thus guaranteeing the objectivity and the transparency of the research. Moreover, the IPCC also does not conduct its own research. IPCC reports are neutral, policy relevant, but not policy prescriptive. The assessment reports are a key input into the international negotiations to tackle climate change. This means it involves many other countries and related to the international relations. Currently, the IPCC has 195 member countries, and in the same year, the UN General Assembly endorsed the action by WMO and UNEP in jointly establishing the IPCC. So, those are the NGOs and IGOs that are related to the environmental issue regarding international relation and their roles to cater the problems. These NGOs and IGOs play an important role to solve this issue. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Today I will be talking about our personal views on the global problem. First is the climate change. Climate change has been known as one of the biggest problems that happen nowadays. So what is the causes of climate change? First is burning the fossil fuel, such as oil and coal. It can emit the greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and it releases carbon dioxide that increase the climate change. Second is transportation. Transportation can contribute to addition of greenhouse gases that cause climate change. How can we stop the climate change? First, we have to eliminate the burning of coal, oil, and natural gases. Next, we have to move closer to work to reduce the usage of transportation so that there is no gases will be spreading. Next is marine pollution. Marine pollution does not only affect marine life but also human. There are lots of common consequences of marine pollution. First is oil spills. It ensnare and suffocate marine animals by permitting their gills and make them suffer from cancer, expected behavioral changes, and hard to reproduce. Next, small plastic debris has been mistaken as food by marine animals such as turtles and seabirds. Next, pollutants. The toxins that has been ingested by small organism and eaten by larger seafood can lead to long-term health conditions, cancer, and birth defects. How can we solve this? First thing first is optional for reusable bottles and utensils, hold a cleanup in a beach, and properly dispose of plastic and trash. Next is food waste. Food waste is a perpetual problem in Malaysia with 16,000 tons wasted daily. Food waste can affect our environment, which the food that had been thrown into the landfill will produce methane and contribute to emissions of greenhouse gases. How to solve this food waste? Which is balancing production with demand, and if oversupply happens, distribute the food or divert it to the people in need. Thank you.